And joining me today on the podcast is none other than Brett. Now, I just want to give my listeners a little bit of a backstory before we get into the question. So, you train around in the same gym I'm a coach at right now, the UFC gym. And when you'd walk around in a really nice suit, you drive a really nice car. And I was always thinking to myself, like, what does that guy do for a living? Like, I never really had courage to ask you. And then that one night at the boxing, at Dragonfire boxing, where Jackson was headlining, I saw you on stage, and I had like a light bulb that just went off in my head. I said, "Oh, so that's what he does for a living." Yeah. Anyway, how you doing, Brett?
Yeah, not quite. Good, thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me. Yeah, not quite. My living has basically been in the media and radio. Back in the day, I started at 96 FM with Triple M, and then 6PR. So I was 6PR and 96 FM for a number of years, and now I'm at Forever Classic 6IX. So I'm broadcasting you right now from the boardroom here at Forever Classic 6IX, and a lot of stuff that you see me do in the ring. It's probably more of an additional thing, more of an interest more than anything. I love doing it, but I love being involved in combat sports.
Wow. So let's like rewind the clocks a little bit, man, because you've got a very extensive background working in media and radio. Like, how did you get involved in this?
Well, years ago, I mean, all I ever really wanted to do was play AFL football, and I was pretty good at it, even if I do say so myself. But injuries sort of stopped me, and then I always had a good personality. That's what everyone tells me anyway. And what happened is that I knew someone that worked at 96 FM. It was called Triple M back then, and they said you'd be great for radio. And I went, all right. And so they called me in for a sort of meeting. Didn't even know it was an interview at the time. And they liked me. And then I sort of took off from there. And it sort of grew the experience back from, that was in 1997 back then. So that's how I got into radio. And I've been in radio ever since.
Wow. So you've been working in radio for what, nearly 20 years?
That's 23 years, yeah.
23 years. Damn. Wow.
That's almost 24 now, so yeah.
Really nice. So 20, almost 24 years in radio. That's insane. So before we get back into radio, I was actually wanted to ask you about your background in football. Like, what was that like?
That was my passion. Grew up as a Richmond supporter, and I was a long-suffering Richmond supporter, but obviously been very happy in the last 3 out of 4 years. So that made it one of the best moments. All I wanted was one, and ended up getting 3. So I've been very happy with that. But playing career, basically, I was very quick, always a very quick runner. I never come up across against an opponent that was actually quicker than me. So that's probably what I can sort of take away from the game. But played mainly at Thornley, played premiership there in 95, and played for Swan Districts in 96. And that's basically where the injury started. Took a couple of years off and then started playing for the Mount Lawley Football Club for a bit of fun. Hung around there ever since. I'm a life member of the Mount Lawley Football Club now. But yeah, the injuries are the one that sort of stopped me from taking the next step. So long history of football, love the game. But yeah, it's I'm happy with what I've done though.
So when you were working at 96 FM, like what were you working when you were a host? What time period did you get? And so this is a 2-part question. Like, what sort of like time period in the day were you working? And also, like, how does radio today different from what radio was back then?
Interesting, because the perception is that everyone thinks I was actually a host, but I was in the sales department. So advertising, all the commercials, setting up promotions was probably more in the background. So that was my role, and it still is my role today. That is my main role is obviously advertising and marketing. Where I got involved with the on-air stuff was it was basically boxing and MMA. No one was talking about that. I did get involved with press conferences back in the early 2000s. But the thing is with AFL, I know a lot about AFL, but everyone else is doing it. The niche markets is boxing and MMA. No one was really talking about that, and I always had an interest in it. And basically they got me to talk about, anything like that. So, and again, when Danny Green came along as well, held a good conversation with him. And he was real as well, because when I first met him, I was talking about not just the Anthony Mundine thing. I was talking about boxing on a world scale, and he knew that I knew what I was talking about. But so next time he came into the station, he basically didn't say something like, "Oh, how you going, mate?" He goes, "How you going, Brett?" So that basically stuck with me as well. But in being in radio, being in media, I've just found myself being able to get involved with the things that I'm interested in. That was the key. And it sort of grew from there. So once I helped Danny, all of a sudden these other promoters and other people in the sport were contacting me out of the blue. "Oh, could you help me with this?" And I was just happy to help. That's probably where the name Media Man came along, because I was just happy to help, and it just sort of grew from there. So the network is very wide now. It was funny, I was working at 96 FM at the time, and whoever wanted to speak to Danny Green, any other radio station, any other media, they had to go through me to get it.
Wow.
So I had to set that up. So that was quite interesting as well. So but it sort of blew up from there.
Wow. So your connection with Danny Green just sort of like as a way like springboarded you into where you are today.
I think so. I owe a lot to him, because again, I had an interest. I met him. I helped him with something. It was to do with the Antonio Tarver fight. What happened was they were going on a pre-tour around the country, and they were struggling to sell over east, tickets to the luncheon, which was again I was really surprised about, but I don't think they were promoting it right. So when they were actually considering, cancelling the Perth leg, I said, "No, don't cancel it." Gave him a bit of advice, and set up something through 96 FM at 6PR at the time, and it sold out. And he never forgot that. And then that sort of like, next step, I was basically getting more involved in each fight that he had. And then again, that's where obviously other promoters started, and other disciplines, Muay Thai, boxing, MMA, started to contact me. I was helping, and then and sort of got involved with there. I wasn't even a commentator back then. I learned a lot of the craft listening to guys at 6PR like Peter Blavos and Carl Langdon. So you learn from those guys. I wasn't sort of the only one that was doing it on an MMA and boxing, style. I mean, the guys like Tony Tolles, who are over in America right now, managing the Maloney twins, who's fighting on Sunday. I mean, they said, "Oh, why don't you give the commentary a go?" So I gave it a go, and they thought I was good at it. And that sort of took off from there.
Wow. So you gave commentary a go, and someone asked you thought it would be the best fit for you. Now, what year did you start becoming a fight commentator?
Probably early 2010s. I can't remember exactly what fight it was, but I know it was a world stage, and I think it was in Singapore with at Marina Bay Sands with the world title fight with Chris John. I believe that was the first real big one as far as commentary was concerned. And then I've been doing the Dragonfire boxing shows ever since. I've been doing Muay Thai Grand Prix recently. So yeah, on the MMA events, there has been several MMA events in Perth, and the main one now is on a worldwide stage, which is obviously connected to the UFC. The UFC gym is Eternal MMA. I mean, those fights are broadcast live to a worldwide audience on UFC Fight Pass. So I'm the lead commentator for when those shows happen in Perth now. So it's a privilege to be part of that, such a professional organisation like that as well. There's, again, Australia's elite MMA promotion. So it's great to be sort of a lead commentator for the Perth shows when it comes to those shows.
I'm not going to lie, you're definitely correct about the whole idea about how there's a now massive increase in popularity when it comes to MMA and boxing, because I'm not bagging on any of the two, but in terms of popularity, we're definitely steering towards the MMA scene a lot now, because let's think back to when we met at the boxing. If we look, I'm not going to say any names, but when we were there in the venue, obviously the venue had a quite limited capacity, and we're standing down on the floor, and then some people get the extra money to sit upwards, and and the club itself, the venue wasn't exactly big to the venue that the MMA Eternal scene managed to get, where there were so many more people sitting high up, and there's all these better things for like production value and walking out, and then also that it can be watched streamed live rather than just walk into the Friday night boxing at the local venue. So it's definitely increased. But one thing I wanted to sort of ask you, man, is first of all, sorry, another thing I want to say is first of all, thank you for the shout out that you gave me on the Eternal Fight card.
The whole world heard that.
Well, I appreciate that because, what is it? When you told me that, I actually went home, showed a video, and then I showed my mate who run the podcast. Was like, holy shit! And I was like, well, I got to get this guy on because as a thank you for doing that. So, run me through like, okay, so it's fight day, right? So you're hosting a card tonight. What are some of the preparations that you need to go through before you start commentating?
For commentary, obviously, it's getting to know the fighters for one, but also their background. It's like what their thoughts are on their opponent, what they've been doing themselves as far as the lead up to this one, and what sort of potential they've got. So it's a lot about background, a lot about personal stuff, what they're into as well. So you need to have things to talk about, because if you know nothing about the guy that's about to walk into the ring, it's very hard to say anything at all. So you just try and find out as much as possible about them. And also their team as well, where they've been training. I mean, that's why I asked when I asked yourself and John and the guys at the UFC gym, for example, a few of them leading into Eternal and other fight shows as well, whether it be boxing as well, they might be training at the UFC gym. So there's an opportunity to, again, credit the UFC gym for that, where they're trained, because it is an elite gym, but also to find out what they're doing as well. So it's all about the stuff that interesting things as well. I mean, we found out a guy, the card that you went to when you saw Action Jackson England fight. He was doing ballet in the lead up, or dancing in the build up. So it was like, that was an interesting thing, and that helped with his footwork. So anything interesting, anything to talk about, and to keep the audience engaged. You just don't want to waffle on where you lose the audience that you're attracting as well. So, but it's also about fight night and bringing the excitement to the fight as well. So you don't want to be dull and boring. You just want to, be different and out there, and obviously bring the excitement to the ring as well. Because again, I'm a better commentator than I'm ring announcer, because I'll do that as well. Obviously, that you've seen that before as well, and mainly for the Muay Thai events. I'm a better commentator. I know guys out there who've got better voices than me, but that doesn't mean they do a better job. I've seen someone before had a fantastic voice, but this person, I won't name names, but he called the first fight exactly the same way as the main event. Wow. There was no excitement there. So when it comes to the co-main event and main event, you get into the pointy end. That's what most people are there for. You've got to bring the excitement. This is the main event of the evening, where you got to bring the excitement and bring the crowd into it as well. I mean, one show that I did, it was only a few weeks ago, it was a developmental show, and Kid came up to me after he fought, and what I took away from the most, he goes, "Oh man, you got me so pumped up for my fight," and that's what I wanted to hear. That's a great thing to hear, that I got him, just by announcing his name and the way that I did it, got him pumped up for his own fight that he ended up winning as well. That was great to hear. But as I said to you before, it's how it's delivered. So other people might have better voices, but they might not do a better job. So let's try and bring out the excitement, the crowd, whether it be commentating or doing the ring introductions. Just try and do the best I can.
Awesome. So how do you get to the process of becoming better as a commentator? Do you have to focus on better research or better keywords, or like how's the step-by-step process of progression?
You just get more comfortable each time that you do it. So you get more confident, like I've done it before. So you just keep going through the processes, really. So, and the more research you can find, it's like, I mean, Cody Haddon, for example, I called his first fight, and I've called 3 of his fights now. And I think this kid has got a massive future. But I know I've spoken to him each time that he's turned up to the UFC gym, for example. So I get to know more about him. So there's more content there to talk about his previous fights, his experience, what he learned from his last loss, for example, which was a massive step up. I still think the kid's got a massive future, for example, but you sort of build on it from there. And I labelled him the future, and that sort of stuck around, whoever speaks about him now. So that's something I labelled him, and that sort of stuck with the fans as well. So it's those sort of things. You sort of, if you see fighters, each time, if you've got experience with it as well, but if you're seeing a fighter fight for the first time, and again, you're starting from scratch, you find out as much as you can about them. So it's all about research and being prepared and working with the guy that you're commentating with as well.
Wow. Research, being prepared, and then just comes with experience. Interesting. So referring back now to your station, now that you've worked in marketing and all that, personally, just wanted to ask you, for someone who knows almost nothing about when it comes to radio, but what are some ways in which you help grow your brand?
Oh, it's just about getting out there, and really, and as I said before, it's like, years ago, all I cared about was playing football. So I left a school at the end of year 10, and then basically end up being, getting a job at a bakery, and then before I got into media. So all I cared about then was, and the hours worked for me because I had time to train and all that sort of stuff. So the reason why I bring that up is goes fast forward to today, or even several years ago, I'm doing the same job as other people that have been in the job. When I say been, they've been in the job, but they went through the whole shebang, the whole university, year 12 university, all the whole thing. When they're doing the same job as me, but they're not around anymore, it all comes down to you've got to have a personality, because you've got to be able to speak to people. If you have got a personality of a doorknob, you're not going to get anywhere in this business. So a lot of the time it's about being able to help people, but also having the personality to sort of back it up as well. So if they like you, they want to deal with you a lot more, but also back it up with the product that you're selling as well. So it's very important.
Sounds like what goes around comes around, really. You do good, and obviously good will come to you. Well, I mean, that's kind of makes a lot of sense, because I'll just say from my point of view is like, whenever you're working out, when you're ever in the UFC gym, you're always saying hello, you're always friendly to someone, you're always smiling. And then whenever as well, when you're at the boxing, you're talking to everyone and you're shaking hands. I feel like that's very, very important, the way that when you're a commentator or when you're a presenter or when you're in radio, you are your brand. So the way you market yourself is the way how you market your own brand. So I feel like that's important for me also now as a personal trainer, because when in the gym, we have to do classes, and the way we do our classes is how we're supposed to promote ourselves as a personal trainer. There's someone who's very energetic, very outgoing, constantly who's encouraging you to do better, then that kind of represents your brand. But if you're someone who's at least not doing that, or doesn't really seem to care, or checking the phone, it does show her the way you are. So the way you present yourself reflects the way that you present your business. So now that's just one thing that I personally learned. Maybe we're going round in circles here, but I just wanted to ask you, what was the biggest lesson that you've learned whilst commentating in the fight game? And also, what was the biggest lesson you learned in radio?
Well, it's a tough one. It's been a long journey, but obviously it's all about staying true to yourself and trying to bring everyone to being involved in it. I've got, again, there's a lot of, especially with the main radio stations as well, and that could be TV. A lot of the people, you just don't want to be on it. You want to be part of it. That's the big difference. So you make sure you bring everyone involved. As you said before, when I gave you the shout out, when I've given the other guys the shout out, even the UFC gym as a whole, I'm bringing them part of it, so they feel part of it as well, and hopefully they get a kick out of it. So, I mean, it's all about, again, getting involved, staying positive as well. You've got to be in the right frame of mind of everything, and showing that personality off. So, you learn something new every day, no matter how long you've been in a business, anything you try and get into, it's like you learn something new every day. So you're just trying to keep getting better each time. And as you said, what comes around, goes around, comes around. So stay positive and be yourself.
Awesome. Lovely. So obviously now you've got a lot of professions. You're a very busy man and all that. You're always in here, you're always training. You got all these events to look up to. I gotta ask, man, like, what's like a typical weekly schedule like for you, or is it just never the same thing each week?
Um, well, again, I come to Forever Classic 6AX and do my role here. And whenever I find the window of opportunity, I'll obviously head down to the UFC gym. But yeah, obviously, and again, people I got a call after doing a Muay Thai event this last week. They saw me, didn't know them, but said, "Oh, could you do our event as well?" Yeah, happy to. What it is, and if I can fit it in. So sometimes I get asked to do events, whether it be commentary or doing the ringside announcing. So it's whatever available as well, and again, just try and stay busy. You don't want to be bored, that's for sure.
Interesting. Very nice. Just well, everything I would ask you is because you've had all these years and like over 2 decades worth of experience in radio, about over a decade experience in commentating. Now, it's hard for me to ask you who would be the most, but when I say influential figures who have helped you along your way, because I don't believe that anybody really is a self-made man. I believe strongly that the people around you are like what's the saying go? Your network is your net worth. And obviously, for someone such as yourself, there's many people on a daily basis and constantly working with new people. But if I asked you who would be like some of the most influential figures in your lifetime to get you help you where you are today, who comes to mind?
There's probably several. I'm probably more of a menu man. So whenever if it's doing my job, if something gets put in front of me, I try and enhance it and make it better. So I'm more of a template person. So for example, when it comes to a commercial, if I wouldn't be able to put together a creative script from scratch. But if someone starts it off, I can make it better. So I can see a good script, I can hear a good commercial, for example, but I can make it better. So it's probably taking bits and pieces of people along the way. Like when it comes to commentary, Peter Vlahos, the Carl Langdons of the world, the other guys that I've worked with in commentary. When it comes to business, I mean, there was a former general manager of mine, Declan Kelly, and there was also a former 3AW general manager, Shane Healy. Shane Healy was probably there at the start. He's one of the best presenters I've ever come across. He was broadcasting with Rex Hunt for many years as our general manager of 6PR for a long time as well. Had a great voice, so I learned a lot off him along the way. But Declan Kelly also had a saying as well, our airtime is our currency. So again, when I'm doing the commentary for, again, UFC Fight Pass, for example, I know that there's a worldwide potential audience there. So you're speaking to a lot of people, but you're also having a one-on-one conversation at the same time. So you're just relaying information. So Danny Green getting involved in the combat sports deeper and deeper. Again, from somewhere where I was just having a chat to him about boxing, and a few years later, I'm in fighter meetings, setting up the fight camps. I'm on the in front of a live audience in Melbourne doing a weigh-in where it's only myself, Shane Cameron, and Danny Green on the stage, and here's me trying to separate them from a stare down. I mean, again, as I said, the journey just keeps on going along. I get more involved, and something's out there that I've got an interest in. I know I've got the platform that can help get the word out there, and I've just got myself involved along the way. So there's a number of promoters that I've obviously learned off. So you learn off different people in different ways, whether it be sports people, whether it be business people, creative people. But yeah, I've sort of molded it all into one. So that's probably why you can call me the template man as well, not just the media man.
Interesting. Wow. So now obviously my audience would love to keep staying in touch with you as well. So like, what's the next event that you're going to be commentating at?
I think there's an event called ISCA Fight Night. That's in Kalamunda. I think that's on August 21. So I'll be doing the MC gig for that, announcing the fights. But I think the next commentary event will be the Muay Thai Grand Prix at Curtin Stadium. So if you knew Muay Thai, that's a really great event as well. So that's coming up for the next few weeks. I know that Dragonfire Boxing, again, the boys are busy with good luck to Team Maloney on the on Sunday when Andrew fights for a title that should already be his against Joshua Franco, and Jason fights Joshua Greer. Muhammad Ali's grandson is on that card as well. His name is Nico Ali Walsh. So he's fighting for the first time. He's a middleweight. He fights on Sunday on the same card. So a lot of interest behind that. But once those guys get back to Perth, I think October 30 or November 1, around those dates is the next Dragonfire Boxing Day, which I think Action Jackson England probably on that card as well, which I look forward to seeing him fight again as well.
That is correct. He is fighting. I think, isn't it in October or the end of September?
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
October,
I don't have the dates in front of me, but I know I'm locked in for that one because I'm very loyal to the Dragonfire Boxing, because that's the same sort of guys that have dealt with Danny Green for the years, so they sort of got me at the start. So yeah, I'm always loyal to those guys.
Yeah, I would definitely be there. I mean, I always love to go to those things. I mean, because
Hope to see you dancing again, Joe.
No, I don't know if I'm going to be dancing again this time, but I've always gone to Jackson's fights. One thing I really like about the guy is just he's very humble. He goes out of his way for people. You know, he's got a kid now, so now he's 100 times more motivated, and he was always motivated, but he's 100 times more now. I've gone to pretty much almost every one of his fights since I've known him, except maybe for one. I can't remember which one it was though, but I've definitely been for a few. But the reason why I just like to go is because as a fight podcast, I just want to support local talent, and I feel like Perth local talent needs a platform to get out there on. There's a lot of podcasts out there, and I'm in a very, very competitive field, and there's a lot of radio stations out there. But the thing is, I feel like the best way for you to build personally as a brand or a podcast or a radio or whatever is just get in touch with locals. Because when you're out there messaging people, just say if I got someone like who's a world-class fighter, someone who's like world champion, they're probably getting asked by like 1,000 podcasts like every day. Can you come on? Can you come on? And then there's no reason for them to come into mind. But if I get someone who,